Alright, we went through a problem in which we were shown that the quadratic formula is as follows. It is, first of all, you're finding x-intercepts, roots, solutions, zeros, they all mean the same, and the formula is the opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, that's a 2, not a z. Notice all of this has to be done first, and then we divide by 2a. Alright, so this is our example. And my equation is going to be 3x squared plus 7x plus 2. And it's equal to y. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write 3x squared plus 7x plus 2 equals 0. And I'm going to identify that a is 3, b is 7, and c is 2. And then I'm going to put my values in there. So I have the opposite of b, which will be a negative 7, plus or minus the square root of 7 squared. So I'm going to put in parentheses to start out with, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 2, all of that over 2 times 3. Okay, that gives us a negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus, remember, do this first, order of operations. So I need to do 4 times 3 times 2, which is 24, divided by 6. And now I'll have a negative 7 plus or minus. So now I'm going to do 49 minus 24, and I get 25 divided by 6. That means I have two answers. I have a negative 7 plus, now the square root of 25 is 5 divided by 6. And down here I have a negative 7 minus 5 divided by 6. And if I solve this, I get a negative 2 over 6, which is a negative 1/3. Over here, I will get a negative 12 over 6, which is a negative 2. Now I can plug those in to see if those are correct. So I'm going to plug a negative 2 in there. So I have 3 times a negative 2 squared plus 7 times a negative 2 plus 2. Well, a negative 2 squared is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Plus 7 times a negative 2 is a negative 14. Plus 2, and lo and behold, I get 0. Alright, let me put a negative 1/3 in there. And I have 3 times a negative 1/3 squared plus 7 times a negative 1/3 plus 2. Okay, so if I square negative 1/3, that's a negative 1/3 times a negative 1/3, that's 1 over 9. So I have 3 times 1 over 9, and 3 over 1 times 1 over 9 is 3/9, which is 1/3. So this is 1/3. This is negative 7/3 plus 2. 1/3 plus a negative 7/3 is a negative 6/3 plus 2. Negative 6/3 is a negative 2 plus 2, and lo and behold, I get 0. So that is my answer. Alright. I think I'll do one more. Again, the quadratic formula. Is this. It is x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, Some people only divide this by 2a. That's a big mistake. All of this gets divided by 2a. And the other mistake that I see quite often is when people square b and write down a negative answer. And here's my answer. Problem 4x squared plus 24x plus 9 equals, and I'll right away make it 0. So a is 4, b is 24, and c is 9. And so I'm going to get the opposite of b, which is a negative 24 plus or minus the square root of 24 squared, and I think 24 squared is 576. So 24 squared, you may want to check that, minus 4 times 9 all over 2 times 4. So that's going to give me a negative 24 plus or minus the square root of 576 minus 16 times 9, I think that's 144, over 8. And so I get a negative 24 plus or minus the square root of, that's going to be 576 minus 144 is 432. All over 8. Now I know there's a perfect square in 432. It's 4, because 4 goes into 432 108 times, and so there's another 4 that goes in there, so I think 16 goes into 432. I think twice 32, 112, 7, I think. So 9 goes into there. So I think 432 is the same as 16 times 9 times 3. So when I take the square root of 432, that's the same as the square root of 16 times 9 times 3. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 9 is 3. And I'm left with the square root of 3, and 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times the square root of 3. So I have a negative 24 plus or minus 12 times the square root of 3 over 8. All these are divisible by 4, so I get a negative 6 plus or minus 3 times the square root of 3 all over 2. And that's my answer.